Alrighty. Peace and power elevation. This is Tiffany coming through here live in effect. So tonight, this happened to be something random, a random topic that I wanted to get into. So this topic is dealing with autodidacticism and didacticism. So I'm going to explain what is an autodidact and what is a person that is didactic. Okay, and how are they similar and how are they different from each other. But let me start off by saying thank you guys that has been subscribed to my channel, that's been hitting the notification bell, sharing my channel, all that great stuff. I really appreciate that. And then let me tell you why I am motivated to talk about this topic tonight. So I'm not going to be on here for very long, but I want to get into why I chose this topic as a conversation. Well, because I think that we have to understand that there are people in the world that acquire knowledge differently. Not everybody have had some type of formal education. Because see, the thing is, life is about learning. It's about learning and experiencing. Once you have some type of experiment and once you start learning, then you'll be able to know how to adjust into this thing that we call life. All right. And so one of those things can be that you can be a didact or you can be an autodidact. All right. And so let me get into what is an autodidact. So I'm going to pull up the definition for autodidact. All right. See the screen. So what is autodidactism? Autodidactism is being self-education or self-learning, self-teaching. It's education without the guidance of masters such as teachers and professors or institutes. Generally, autodidacts are individuals who choose the subject they will study, their studying material, and the studying rhythm and time. Autodidacts may or may not have the formal education, and their study may be either a complement or an alternative to formal education. Many notable contributions has been made by autodidacts. And as you can see, it comes from the Greek word, the ancient Greek word auto means self, didaco means teaching. All right. So the related term Daddyism defined in artistic philosophy of education. Now let's look at Daddyism. Daddyism is a philosophy that emphasizes instructional and informative qualities in literature, art, and design. In art, design, architecture, and landscape, Daddyism is an emergent conceptual approach that is driven by the urgent need to explain. When applied to ecological questions, Dadaism in art, design, architecture, and landscape attempts to persuade the viewer of environmental priorities, thus constituting an entirely new form of explanatory discourse that presents what can be called eco-lessons. This concept can be defined as ecological Dadaism. Ecological Dadaism. Wow, that's deep. So now, get into all of that. Autodidact means to be self-taught, right? Didact means to be taught or be instructed by someone. Okay. So those are the different. One is self-taught. The other one is to be instructed or taught by others that has a form of education. Okay. In a particular subject or field. But what they have in common is learning, education. That's what they both have in common. So now, why am I getting on to this? Where am I getting at? Well, I'm getting at this because there has been a line drawn between those who are autodidact and those who are didactic. It seems like those in particular that are didactic tends to look down upon those who are autodidactic. But at the end of the day, can both learn from each other? Absolutely. You should be able to learn from each other. Because the person that is autodidact, they can learn a lot from somebody that's didactic. Why? Because that person that's didactic has the experience that that autodidact person don't have. That person that is didactic may have traveled, went to different places, and been taught one way. But that person that's autodidact, they only pretty much learn by what they read, or sometimes based on experience, but for the most part, what they read. So someone that is didactic can take an autodidact under his or her wing and help them to better enhance their learning skills, their cognitive skills. And then an autodidact can show a didactic person, well, this information is what I came across. Are you aware of this? And that didactic person might not be aware of that, but that gives them a chance based on their experience and their studies and skills they have. They can go and learn things for themselves. And they can go find out and say, okay, well, let's go do the research together. But when there is a competition between the auto and the didactic, that's where the conflicts come into place. It brings so much conflict because one has to feel like they compete with each other. One feel like they better than somebody because they have some type of degree, or they have been to some type of formal education and they feel like they're just greater than the other individual. And then that person may feel like, well, I know some things that you don't know, and some things that you probably weren't even taught in school. So, I mean, it's that type of environment setting that's taking place. And it shouldn't be like that. Now, getting to the point where I'm about to go with this, so I happened to look up, or I happened to come across about Dr. Henry Louis Gates. Oh, and peace to the chat. I'm sorry. Peace to the chat. Shout out to the chat. Thank you, everybody. Shout out to Brother Vayasa, Gullah, Chauncey, and Rashid. Shout out to you, brothers. Thank you for coming through. So what brought me up to this topic is because there was this whole conversation about Dr. Henry Louis Gates and how he gave such criticism to Dr. John Henry Clarke, or how he supposedly disrespected Dr. John Henry Clarke by referring to him as a pseudo scholar. Okay. But see, now what we have to look at is we got to look at what's the problem here. The problem is you got a case of a didactic versus autodidactic. Now, Dr. John Henry Clarke, let me start off. I did a video about him in the past. Dr. John started off as being autodidactic. He was autodidactic. That's how he started off. Because he was so fascinated, he was so interested in studying about history. Dr. John didn't really have a very good formal education growing up because he grew up in the country in Georgia. Well, he was born in Alabama, but he was raised in Georgia. Okay, he grew up in poverty. So he had to go out and learn on his own. He didn't learn anything. Nobody taught him Black history as a child. He learned about history for himself. Okay. So he studied and he studied on his own until he came across individuals like Carter G. Woodson and Arthur Schomburg. When he came across those individuals, they put him under their wings and they taught him everything that he needed to know. Even Carl G. Woodson was an autodidact. So Dr. John only knew what he was taught. And you have to remember at that time period, he didn't have that type of skill settings where he can be able to go and do all the anthropological work. Okay. So Dr. John only knew what he studied. He only knew based on what he has researched. Um, but yeah, he didn't. And as a matter of fact, you know what's interesting? He became an assistant professor at a university. He became an assistant professor, but he did not have a degree. He did not have a degree until afterward, to later on in life. But he worked as an assistant professor. Without a degree. And so he went from being an autodidact to being didactic to becoming a guru. Now, yes, there's some information that was maybe outdated, maybe pseudo. But again, that's all he went off of, all he knew, based on what he had studied and based on what was taught to him. Now, let's go to Dr. Henry Louis Gates. Dr. Henry Louis Gates had a formal education. He had a degree. He studied history. All right. So he knew a lot more about, he was well studied in African American history. That was information that he knew that Dr. John may not have known. But the thing is, he did acquire education. Now, I don't agree with what he did or what he said about Dr. John Henry Clark, referring to him as a pseudo scholar. Um, I don't agree with that, but I understand why. Because Dr. Henry Louis Gates, by his studies and being able to have access to certain information that Dr. John didn't have access to, that's part why he looked at the information and listened to what Dr. John was teaching and probably thought, oh, there's some pseudo stuff that he's teaching there. But I don't think Dr. John was intentionally trying to be pseudo. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to wake up and just manipulate people, this, that, and other. No, I don't think that's where Dr. John was coming from. But if we want to get technical here, okay, everybody start off as being autodidact. Uh-oh, where am I going with this? Everybody start off as being autodidact. What do I mean by that? Before you get guidance, before you get a formal education, you're going to study something that you're passionate about. You're going to try to learn something that catches your attention. It starts off as when you're a baby. What do babies do? Babies try to learn how to do certain things on their own, right? They try to work independently. So, for example, a baby might learn how to try to use a comb and a brush. They get the idea that you put the comb and the brush in the hair, but they don't know how to properly use it. Now, it's not until they get older and they start to get on some type of guidance that they learn how to actually use a comb and how to use the brush and what the comb is for and what the brush is actually used for. Okay? So what I'm saying is you're going to start off as being autodidact before you become didactic, because you're going to try to learn things for yourself. You're going to try to learn things on your own. And then when you come across instruction and start creating principles and things like that, then you can set that leadership to others. And then when other people follow you, then they become didactics. Then they have people who learn under them. So even when you go to these colleges and universities, right? Or let's just say, when the colleges and universities came in formation, it was the people that was autodidactic that opened up these universities and colleges. Look at Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington didn't have a great formal education because he was a slave. But when Booker T. Washington started taking the initiative to learn, that's when he showed that his autodidactism. Once he showed that part, then he started taking that passion further to become a didactic, went to the Hampton Institute, which is now Hampton University in Virginia. And from there, he didn't have that formal skill of starting a school. He didn't know anything about opening up a school. He didn't know anything about running a school. So he learned on his own. When he moved to Alabama, he went to Tuskegee, Alabama, and opened up the Tuskegee University. They didn't have well upstanding professors. They didn't have people who had degrees. They had people who just had the informal knowledge, their experience in agriculture, etc., that was able to teach the students how to be able to maintain and do for themselves. Now, over a period of time, of course, it became a university and accreditation started coming in, and enrollments, etc. But prior to that, the people that was teaching at his school, they didn't have formal education like that. So what I'm saying is you're going to start off having informal education. You're going to start off trying to learn on your own. Then over a period of time, once you go through the trial and error, then you can be able to pass the teaching on to the next individual. Like I mentioned about Galileo. Galileo was an autodidact. During his time period, they didn't have all these different technological advances like they do today. So he started studying off on his own. All the information he knew, he didn't learn from religion. What he learned was opposite from the Roman Catholic Church. He started to question things. He started doing his own research. Nobody taught him how to go about doing scientific methodology, how to do scientific research. He did it on his own with a telescope. And he started drawing his own conclusion. Same way with hold on, give me. Same way with Nicholas Copernicus. Same way with Nicholas Copernicus. Copernicus didn't have that formal education. Copernicus didn't have the scientific methodology. Yeah, he was a mathematician, but he didn't have the scientific methodology to know about the universe and all of that. He didn't have all of that. He went through the trial and error. He drew his own conclusion. He the one that said the sun is the center of the universe and the earth revolve around the sun, not the sun revolving around the earth. Didn't nobody teach him? Didn't nobody say, okay, this is what you gotta do? You gotta go through S, Y, and Z to do this. No, he learned on his own. And whatever mistakes that he made, he had to go back and correct those mistakes. He said, okay, well, I thought it was this way. Maybe I was wrong about this. Let me go back and see where I messed up at. Well, let me see. Okay, let me go back and change that. This is not exactly what it was. So again, at the end of the day, you can learn from each other, because the autodidacts become the didacts, and the didacts create the didacts or the autodidacts. I'm gonna say it again: the autodidacts become the didacts. The autodidacts become the teachers of the didacts. The autodidacts become the teachers of the didacts. And in return, the didacts become the teacher of the autodidacts. Get what I'm saying? They both work hand in hand. They both work together. So for me, I started off being autodidact at a young age. Then I became didactic. Then I went back to being autodidactic. And I'm didactic. So with me, I have a formal education. I've been to college. I didn't finish college. I didn't complete it, but I have some formal education. I have some things that I've learned and I memorized from my days in school. And there are some things, a lot of things that I had to learn on my own. I had to go branch out and read up on things. I don't have all the answer, but I had to branch out and learn on my own. Then I came across some more people that knew more about the subject fields that I'm currently studying in. And I learned from them. I learned from listening. I learned from getting books. And I had to go back to being an autodidact. There's a saying goes like this. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Now, I'm going to say this again. The autodidacts become the teacher of the didacts. And the didacts become the teacher of the autodidacts. And see, you cannot live life thinking that you're not going to learn anything or that you can't learn anything, because that's when life will show you that you have no choice but to learn. Whether you want to or not, you have no choice but to learn. Now, you're not going to know it all, no, because our brains is not set up for us to know every single thing. Our brain is like a memory card. You can only store so much memory inside that card. And whatever is, and once that storage is full, it's full. And the only way you're going to be able to store some more information is if you delete some of those files off your memory card, off your SD card, which is a memory card. So that's how your brain is. Your brain can only store so much information. And if it's ready to add on more, then it's going to delete some of the information from its memory, from its neuron, from its cerebral cortex, and add on additional information or replace those information with new ones. So whatever your focus is, whatever is more important to you, that is where your brain is going to focus on. So getting back to the point, the didacts and autodidacts have the passion to learn. The didacts and the autodidacts requires cognitive skills. To be an autodidact is to learn cognitive skills. To be a didact is to learn cognitive skills. Now, what do I mean by cognitive skills? Let me go ahead and let's get into the concept of cognitive skills. Now, what does it mean to have cognitive skills? What does it mean to be cognitive? All right, so all right, I hope you guys can see the screen. Now, cognitive skills. Cognitive skills, also called cognitive functions, cognitive ability, or cognitive capacities, are brain-based skills which are needed in acquisition of knowledge, manipulation of information, and reasoning. They have more to do with the mechanism of how people learn. Keyword, mechanism of how people learn, remember, problem solve, and pay attention. Pay attention rather than with actual knowledge. Cognitive skills or function encompass the domains of perception, attention, memory, learning, decision making, and language. All right. Key word is what? Pay attention. And mechanism. That's the thing. Pay attention and acquire mechanism. When you pay attention to whatever subject that you study, whatever your field of study is, you'll develop the mechanism. And that's what makes you cognitive. That's what makes a person cognitive. Now let's look at cognition. Because one day I'm going to come back to this, okay? But I'm just going to, just give a little information. Just talk about it a little bit. That's all. Because it ties into what I'm discussing. But I'm going to do a subject on it by itself one day. All right, so I hope you guys can see that. Cool. Cognition refer to mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses. It encompasses many aspects of intellectual function and process such as perception, attention, the formation of knowledge, memory, and working memory, judgment and evaluation, reasoning and computation, problem solving, decision making, comprehension, and production of language. Cognitive process use existing knowledge and discover new knowledge. Boom. Hold on. What it says, cognitive processes use existing knowledge and discover new knowledge. And it goes on to say, cognitive processes are analyzed from different perspectives within different contexts, notably in the field of linguistics, musicology, anesthesia, neuroscience, psychiatry, psychology, education, philosophy, anthropology, biology, systemics, logic, and computer science. These and other different approaches to analysis of cognition are synthesized in the developing field of cognitive science in a progressively autonomous academic discipline. So once you have learned how to pay attention, you develop the mechanism which make you cognitive. So to be the autodidact and to be didactic is required to develop cognitive skills, to have cognition, to be cognitive. When you become cognitive, that's when your learning ability takes place. That's when your knowledge kicks in. But again, you got to be cognitive. You got to be cognitive. All right. All right. So I'm going to like stop right here, but that's all I wanted to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and take on what I had put out here, the information and whatnot. I really appreciate it. But I'm gonna say this: let's not always look down on each other's ability to learn. Let's not look down on each other's ability to not be able to acquire the skill settings. Because at the end of the day, you can learn from one another. Autodidacts can learn from the didacts. And the didacts can learn from the autodidacts. That's all I gotta say. So hopefully I did put something out there that was valuable. So I'm not as articulate as you can tell. I'm not a very articulated person. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is getting the message, getting something out of this. So if to all my autodidacts out there, continue to be autodidacts. Continue until you can be able, until you can expand yourself to the point where you can become the didact. And you can teach other didacts. Never stop learning for yourself. Never stop being self-taught. Never stop acquiring the knowledge. Never stop acquiring the knowledge. Never stop developing cognitive skills. But also learn from someone else too that might be well studied in the field. Absolutely, you're right. Malcolm was an autodidact. Yes, he was. And I totally agree. He was. Yeah, never stop learning for yourself, but also learn from each other as well. Learn from each other. And you may not agree with everything that you learn, but take something out the information. And expand it further. So in the beginning, you may start off being pseudo. Oh, of course you're going to be pseudo. You're going to have the pseudo knowledge. in the beginning, because you're only going by the rudimentary concept of things. You only know what the rudimentary, you only operate from the rudimentary level. You only operate from the rudimentary level, but eventually you're going to have to expand yourself. You have to go from the rudimentary level to the advanced level. And the advanced level can be very challenging. So what we call the pseudo knowledge, if a person is ready to learn beyond the pseudo knowledge, they will come and they will appear. But let's not forget, we all had a beginning. We all have a beginning, and we all have an end. And that's the most important thing that we gotta know. You're gonna have a beginning and you're gonna have an end. You're gonna have a beginning, you're gonna have an end. But anyhow, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in and listening to me. This is your girl Tiffany, coming to you on this late night tip. It is late night tip. So it's late night where I'm at. But again, thank you guys for watching. And until next time, may peace and power and elevation be to all of you. And please be safe. And make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, share this channel, hit the notification bell. And also you can check out all the other content that I have on here. All the other videos that I did. And so also, check out those videos as well. And with that being said, that's it. All right. Y'all have a good one. Peace.